Hello everyone, welcome to Sunya IAS and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talk about water in the atmosphere and in the oceans. Basically, water throughout the earth, right? And this is one topic जहाँ से question बिल्कुल theoretical आता है, बिल्कुल direct आता है. And if you do that question incorrectly, then you are not clearing prelims because this is the most static question that can be asked, right? So, in this regard, let me just tell you a little bit about this course. This course is called Revise Entire Prelims Syllabus through 3000 plus MCQs, where we have done Indian polity, Indian economy, modern history. We are doing geography right now, then we'll do environment, we'll do ancient medieval, science and tech, and current affairs, right? So, the purpose is to make you accustomed to solving the new pattern questions and to cover the entire syllabus also, of course. So you can contact on this number, visit on this website. The benefit that you get on getting the course is that you can get the PDFs of the questions and the answers, the solved questions as well in advance so that you come to the video only when required. With this, let's start with the very first question for today's class. Consider the following pairs: humidity and characteristics. Dew point, absolute humidity and relative humidity. So what are these? So dew point, basically dew means the condensation of water vapor in the air and it transforms into a liquid, right? So what is the dew point? Dew point is actually the temperature at which air becomes completely saturated and completely saturated with what? Completely saturated with moisture. Completely saturated with moisture. And when it is completely saturated, just try to visualize this. This is an air patch. This is one air patch wherein cumulatively this much is the water component. ठीक है, तो it will not become into a liquid. It will not transform into a liquid because there is still a lot of space for a lot of air, for a lot of water. But when this is an air patch wherein the entire air patch is full of air, water droplets and water quantity, then it is going to condense. Condensation can be in the form of clouds, can be in the form of dew at the ground level, can be in the form of mist or fog as well. Fine. So dew point is the temperature at which air becomes completely saturated. Absolute humidity, we have already done this before, that what is the actual amount of water present in the atmosphere or present in the per unit water, per unit air, right? And then there is relative humidity. Relative humidity is the percentage of moisture as compared to its full capacity. ठीक है, तो तीनों ही incorrectly matched हैं, तो answer is none. But the point is that all three of them are important concepts we should know, because these concepts, when relative, for example, when you want to predict rainfall, you study the relative humidity ki acha relative humidity is somewhere about 95%, so now it's going to rain soon, right? So these are the applications of these concepts, and that's why an administrator needs to know these concepts, right? Chalo, next pe chalo. Consider the following statements regarding latent heat of vaporization. It is a process where physical state changes with change in temperature. It accelerates the cooling process of the body during sweating, and it can be seen in cyclone formation. How many of the given statements is or are incorrect? Latent heat of vaporization. Basically, latent heat of vaporization is that amount of heat energy that is needed to transform a liquid to a a liquid to a vapor at a constant pressure and temperature. ठीक है, so what happens is that there is no change in temperature. वैसे generally क्या होता है कि the more you heat a liquid, the liquid will transform into vapor. But there will come one stage, there will be one stage when at the same temperature, at the same pressure, because of the latent heat that has been built up, the water will start evaporating. The water will start vaporizing. That is latent heat of vaporization. So that happens when physical state changes without change in temperature and without change in pressure. Fine. So first is incorrect. And latent heat accelerates the cooling process of the body during sweating. Just try to understand this. That you are exercising, you are profusely sweating. You are profusely sweating. And that sweat keeps on evaporating. When that sweat evaporates, your body feels cooler, right? Your body feels cooler. And that's why the latent heat of vaporization, the heat is coming from your body. And that latent heat is actually helping you to cool down during sweating. So even the second one is correct. Then third, it can be seen in cyclone formation. Absolutely, it can be seen in cyclone formation because the water keeps on evaporating upwards and then it keeps on where is the cyclone getting its energy from? It is getting its energy from the evaporation, right? From the heat from the evaporation. And there comes a point where there is no increase in heat, but still the water vapor is evaporating and it's constantly changing from liquid to vapor. And that is why a liquid source is very much essential for the formation of a tropical cyclone. So even third one is correct. First is incorrect. So only one here is incorrect. Next. The occurrence of cyclones in the Bay of Bengal is more than the Arabian Sea because fresh water flow from perennial rivers. Bay of Bengal is deeper than Arabian Sea. Geometry of the Bay of Bengal with its long curved coastline and presence of warmer surface water. So we know for a fact कि हमें अब फिर भी थोड़ा सा देखने को मिला है that there is cyclones coming on the Gujarat coast etc. But otherwise we have always had cyclones on the Odisha coast, we have had cyclones on the Andhra Pradesh coast, we have had cyclones less on the Chennai coast because why? Because Coriolis force is lesser. Okay, Coriolis force is more in the Odisha coast. So mostly Odisha or even for that matter West Bengal is also very much affected. So why is it that the Bay of Bengal has historically had much more cyclones? Is because they have it has fresh water flow from rivers but not from perennial rivers. ठीक है, rivers जब हम rivers करेंगे, Indian geography करेंगे, we will know that southern rivers are not perennial. Okay, southern rivers are actually rain fed. So definitely fresh water flows from the rivers, but these are not perennial rivers. Okay, so first is incorrect. Bay of Bengal is deeper than the Arabian Sea. No, Bay of Bengal is not deeper than Arabian Sea. Arabian Sea, sea and bay, these are self-explanatory that bay is actually smaller. So Bay of Bengal has lesser water and that's why that water gets heated up more quickly also. And that's why that heat transforms into a cyclone as well. And that is the reason because Arabian Sea water is also now heating up. So that is why we are seeing that Arabian Sea water is also having cyclones. So fresh water, yes, but not from perennial rivers. Bay of Bengal is not deeper than Arabian Sea. Geometry of Bay of Bengal with its long curved coastline. This is absolutely correct. Because if you see the east coast, it is a submerged coast, right? It is a submerged coast. So it's easier for water to be heated up on the long coastline, the long continental shelf and form into a cyclone. And Arabian Sea does not have a curved coastline. It has a pretty straight coastline because we have Western Ghats, which is pretty straight, the Sayadris. So third is correct. Then presence of warmer surface water, even this is correct. So here only two are correct. Now I want you to understand this concept of fresh water. Why will fresh water lead to higher cyclone formation? Because fresh water is less dense. Okay, fresh water is less dense, and when it is less dense then it will lead to quicker evaporation. Dense water will evaporate slowly but less dense water will evaporate quickly, right? So that is why the fresh water will lead to more cyclone formation because evaporation is happening more. So only two here is the correct answer. Next. Gropal generally occurs during which type of rainfall? कन्वेक्शनल रेनफॉल, orographic रेनफॉल, cyclonic रेनफॉल या फिर frontal rainfall. So what first of all we need to understand what graupel is. So graupel basically is a soft pellet of ice, ठीक है, and it resembles snow pellets. When is graupel created? Graupel is created when super cooled water freeze into snowflakes, right? Beautiful phenomena. Super cool water hai and it is freezing into snowflakes. So when does this happen? This actually happens in convectional rainfall when when the water is becoming very cool and it is heated up, right? ठीक है, if first the water is very cool, then it is heated up, it rises in convectional currents, and when it goes up, it actually loses the heat, and that is the time when it is transforming into small snowflakes, right? So graupel is there, so it happens in convectional rainfall. It's a soft pellet of ice, right? It's not even snowfall, it's a soft pellet of ice. So it does not happen in orographic, not in cyclonic, not in frontal. And these four type of rainfalls, I hope you are clear with them now, because we have already mentioned them earlier in the last class. One of the last questions was this only. ठीक है? चलो next पे चलो. Match the following cloud and characteristics: cirrus, cumulus, stratus, and nimbus. Now you should be able to do this very well. First of all, let's go for the cirrus clouds. Cirrus clouds are the highest clouds. So cirrus clouds would be the high altitude clouds. We have already talked about this. These are feather-like experience निकलता है बार बार मेरे मुंह से. Feather-like appearance. ठीक है, feather-like appearance. And cirrus clouds are high altitude. Then cumulus clouds. Cumulus clouds would be would they be rain bearing clouds? They could have rain, but what is a better suitable option for this rain bearing clouds? It would be either stratus or nimbus. ठीक है, तो rain bearing clouds जो हैं वो आपका yes जो आपके rain bearing clouds हैं, they will be coming from nimbus, because I told you that nimbus clouds are the black clouds which are opaque, right? Which are opaque to the incoming sunlight, and that's why they are having maximum काले बादल, right? काले बादल ही बरसते. So cumulus clouds would not be rain bearing clouds. Nimbus would be rain bearing clouds. Cumulus clouds would be actually scattered clouds. Okay, they would be scattered clouds. And why have we come around at scattered? Because stratus clouds are layered. Okay, whenever you are having match the following, you need to know exactly what these are, because stratus means layers, right? And that is why stratus clouds means layered clouds scattered to large areas, and cumulus clouds are cotton wool like clouds. Remember, cumulus clouds are, they are scattered, but they are cotton wool like. They are not layered. So here one is A, 2 is D, 3 is C and 4 is B. ठीक है, clear हो गई बात. चारों तरह के क्लाउड्स बहुत ही ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हैं. एंड ट्रॉपिकल साइक्लोन में कौन से क्लाउड्स फॉर्म होते हैं? वी हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट इट. क्यूमुलोनिम्बस क्लाउड्स. ठीक है, द मिक्सचर ऑफ क्यूमुलस एंड निम्बस. नेक्स्ट, consider the following statements regarding ocean currents. Temperature differences influences the direction of ocean currents, causing their differential deflection. Wind is a primary driver of surface ocean currents. The transfer of energy from the wind to the water surface causes the movement. So, which of the given statements is or are correct? So, what happens basically? We are talking about ocean currents. So, just like we talked about the winds, the local winds, the perennial winds, similarly, there are ocean currents also, right? So, ocean currents are like, I will just explain to you. This is the ocean water. Now, ocean currents above the ocean are like these small rivers of water which are flowing above the ocean. So basically rivers are flowing mostly above the ground, so we are able to see them on the ground. But just visualize that water is moving in a certain path on the ocean as well. So it is ocean current, and that happens because of pressure and temperature differences. ठीक है. But temperature differences does not influence the direction of ocean currents, which is the force that will influence the direction and would lead to its differential deflection. Just think about it. We have talked about this particular force, without which cyclone cannot form. This force is Coriolis force. It is the Coriolis force. Fine. So first is incorrect. Then wind is a primary driver of surface ocean currents. Transfer of energy from wind to the water surface causes movements. Absolutely correct. So basically, if let's say this is wind that is flowing above the ocean, it will lead to the water also taking a certain pathway and flowing in that manner. So wind is definitely a primary driver of surface ocean currents. So second is correct. First is incorrect. 2 only is the answer. Next. Consider the following statements. Salinity of oceans is measured in relative terms in comparison with the Pacific Ocean salinity. And generally, salinity is high at the poles and low at the mid latitudes. So, which of the given statements is or are correct? देखो salinity होती है parts per thousand में measure, PPT, parts per thousand. PowerPoint presentation करते हो? Parts per thousand. So salinity, एक बेस salinity हम लेके चलते हैं and base salinity is taken on the basis of Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic, not Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean, right? So that is not taken. It is actually the Atlantic Ocean, and Atlantic Ocean की salinity is 35 parts per million. ठीक है, ppm. It's actually ppm जिसमें हम measure करते हैं हमारी salinity. ठीक है, not ppt, ppm. अच्छा, generally salinity is higher at poles and low at mid latitudes. How can that happen? That cannot happen because all the poles, they have all the glaciers, right? And glaciers always bring out the fresh water, and fresh water is not saline. Fresh water is clear water. So saline water will be at the mid latitudes and the fresh water will be at the poles. So second one is also incorrect. First is also incorrect. D, neither one nor two is the answer. Now I have a question for you here. There is a concept called halocline. It is related to the salinity of the oceans only. What is halocline? I want you to tell me in the comments what exactly is halocline. Please tell me in the comments. Next. Consider the following statement. Statement 1. The ebb is the outgoing phase when the tide drains away from the shore, and the flow is the incoming phase when the water rises again. And statement 2, the formation of ebb and flow is primarily driven by gravitational forces exerted by the moon and the sun on the earth. Please understand this concept of tides. Tides and waves are very different. Okay. So if let's say this is the earth and this is the ocean flowing on the earth. Okay. This is the ocean flowing on the earth. So now what is happening is, here is the moon and here is the sun, for example. Okay. What is happening is that moon has its own gravity, sun has its own gravity. So they are exerting their gravity like this, and because of that the water is moving in tides. So tides are not happening because of wind. Ocean currents are happening because of wind. Okay, waves are happening because of wind, but tides are not happening because of wind. Tides are happening because of gravitational pull of the sun and the moon, and also the the centrifugal force of the earth also, because earth is constantly rotating. So when it is constantly rotating, I have already told you before also that when it is rotating, it is pushing everything outside, right? So that's why centrifugal force of the earth and the gravitational force of the sun and the moon, right? Now when this happens, there is ebb and flow. So ebb is basically the outgoing phase when the tide drains away from the shore, and flow is the incoming phase when the water rises again. So up above, you were seeing earlier from the space perspective. Now see from the beach perspective, that this is the beach and this is the water, right? This is the sea. So what is ebb? Ebb is basically when the tide has come and now it is going back. Okay, tide is going back. It is flowing back towards the ocean. Tide drains away from the shore. And flow is when the incoming tide is rising again. So you just see that flow is here. Flow is when the incoming tide is rising again, like this direction, and tide will be the ebb will be this direction, downwards. ठीक है, इसको मैं दोबारा से क्लैरिटी से बताती हूँ. See, again, this is beach, this is ocean. So what is flow? Flow is when from the ocean the tide is coming towards the ground, so it's in the incoming phase. And what is ebb? Ebb is when tide is already there and it is coming back. ठीक है, so this is ebb and this is flow. Clear? So first is absolutely correct. And second, formation of ebb and flow is primarily driven by gravitational forces exerted by moon and sun. Absolutely correct. So here A is the answer. Both 1 and 2 are correct and 2 explains 1. ठीक है, चलो. टाइड का कॉन्सेप्ट एंड स्प्रिंग टाइड और नीप टाइड का कॉन्सेप्ट भी बहुत ही ज्यादा क्लियर होना चाहिए. Please read about it. Spring tide is when tide is at the highest level because sun, moon and earth are in the same line. And neap tide is what I showed you here when I showed you in that diagram that this is the earth, this is moon, this is sun. When they are perpendicular and they are applying their gravitational force like this, then they are cancelling out each other's gravitational force, which is why the tide will not be able to go to its full potential, right? And when the moon will be here, then they will both be pulling in the same direction, the sun and the moon. So there will be spring tide. Okay, chalo, next. Match the following oceanic features and their locations. Bermuda Triangle, Mariana Trench, Mauna Kea and Telegraph Plateau. So, हमें सही से match करना है. Bermuda Triangle, I think everybody knows that the Bermuda is a island only and it is there in the Caribbean Ocean, which is there in the Atlantic Ocean. So, Bermuda Triangle is not correctly matched. Mariana Trench, we have read that earlier also. Mariana Trench, deepest trench, and इसमें सबसे deepest point कौन सा है? Challenger Deep, right? So Pacific Ocean में है वो. Then Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is basically correctly matched with the Pacific Ocean because Mauna Kea is in Japan and Western Pacific Ocean. So Mariana Trench is not correctly matched. Bermuda Triangle is not correctly matched, but Mauna Kea is correctly matched with Pacific Ocean. And Telegraph Plateau. Telegraph Plateau is basically in Atlantic Ocean again. It is near Greenland. ठीक है, तो ये कुछ ओशन फीचर्स हैं, ये इंपॉर्टेंट हैं चारों. बर्म्यूडा ट्राइंगल तो यू नो. Mariana Trench we also we have done once before, and Mauna Kea in Japan, Pacific Ocean ही हो गया वो, and Telegraph Plateau in Atlantic Ocean. So here only one is correctly matched, but all the 4 locations are important. Next, consider the following factors with respect to temperature of the ocean. The process of heating and cooling of the ocean water is slower than the land. And ocean water at great depths, is heated faster than the upper water layer. So, ये देखो, ये बहुत ही interesting concept है. First one, you know, it is absolutely correct that ocean water, of course, heats up slowly. Specific heat of ocean is more as compared to land. But second one, you might think is incorrect. Ki when the water is at great depth, then how will it get heated up faster? But please try to imagine this. This is our earth. This is the sun. Okay? This is the ocean. When you are going deep inside the ocean, aren't you going closer to the earth's core also? Is there not energy and heat inside the earth as well, which is having much more impact on the ocean than the sun rays which are coming from so far away, right? So this is actually true that the ocean, the ocean water at great depths is heated faster than the upper water layers. This is absolutely correct. And also know that ocean water never reaches 0 degrees Celsius even at the deepest point. But the reason is not this temperature. The reason is that there is so much pressure. Just imagine the weight of an entire ocean at the bottommost layer, right? The weight of an entire ocean at the bottommost layer, right? Right now, like for example, Titanic. Titanic is at the bottom of Atlantic Ocean right now, है ना? And it is having the weight of the entire ocean. And that there was this recent Titan submersible also that went down and it imploded, right? So the thing is that even at the deepest level of the ocean, the temperature will maximum go to 4 degrees Celsius. Okay. And that is because of the heat that is generated because of the pressure, right? At the pressure of the ocean itself. So here both 1 and 2 are correct. Very interesting concept that I have just told you. Next. Consider the following statements. Epipelagic zone is the ocean layer with greatest biodiversity. The water temperature in bathypelagic zone is near freezing and there is no light at all. And hadal-pelagic zone is the zone mostly found in deep waters, trenches and canyons. What happened? Where water temperature is just above freezing. So, how many of the given statements are correct? Basically, these are the zones of ocean. Okay? Zones of ocean, and all the 3 statements here are correct. Epipelagic. Epipelagic basically means the topmost layer which is having the greatest biodiversity. Okay? Epipelagic layer, and it extends from the surface to 200 meters within the ocean. Surface to 200 meters within the ocean. And this epipelagic zone, it is also called the sunlight zone. Sunlight zone. Okay? So first is correct. Then water temperature in the bathypelagic zone. Bathypelagic zone is very deep inside the ocean. It is 1000 to 4000 meter within the ocean, like deep inside the ocean. And here you find a lot of, light giving organisms. So it's a very beautiful layer जो आप films वगैरह में देखते हैं ना कि the organisms are emitting their own light and all that happens in bathypelagic zone because sunlight does not reach there. ठीक है? तो this is correct. And hadal-pelagic zone जो है, that is even deeper. That is more than 6000 meters to the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean. So hadal-pelagic zone, deep water trenches and canyons में मिलता है. Water temperature is just above freezing, which is 4 degrees Celsius पे आ जाता है वो, right? So here all 3 are correct, and very important, the layers of the ocean, correct? So next. Consider the following statements. The Dead Sea in the Middle East has high salinity due to intense evaporation in its arid climate. Rapid changes in the salinity in the vertical ocean water column up is called the halocline. The Atlantic Ocean has less salinity than the Mediterranean Sea, and the Arabian Sea has less salinity than the Bay of Bengal. So how many of the given statements is or are correct? देखो, basically salinity का concept, the horizontal distribution of salinity and the vertical distribution of salinity, that is within the ocean. Both of them are very important. Okay, so first one, Dead Sea, many people think that Dead Sea is the saltiest water body on the earth. No, it is not. It is actually Lake Van. Lake Van या Van, जो भी आप बोलना चाहो, टर्की में है ये, and it has the highest salinity. ठीक है? But yes, Dead Sea in the Middle East has high salinity due to intense evaporation in its arid climate. Absolutely, this is correct. But it's not the most saline body. That is why, Israel has championed and pioneered the desalinization techniques so that it can make use of the water of the Dead Sea. Correct? So, ये सही हो गया. Rapid change in salinity in vertical ocean water column up is called halocline. This I have already asked you, but I'll tell you that there comes a point in the ocean that after this particular point, इस तक तो थोड़ा आराम से salinity जो है change हो रही है. After that, the salinity keeps changing rapidly and this point is called halocline. ठीक है, so इसे halocline बोलते हैं. So second one is also correct. Then Atlantic Ocean has less salinity than the Mediterranean Sea. This might seem to be absolutely incorrect, but it is absolutely correct actually, because see, Mediterranean Sea is a closed sea and a lot of rivers don't give their water to Mediterranean Sea. So that is why the evaporation is quite a lot, and Mediterranean Sea is actually more saline than the Atlantic Sea, which is something which is very difficult to believe. But always try to remember that the smaller a body is, and if it is not getting fresh water, then it will be more salty because it will evaporate more, right? But this does not apply to Arabian Sea. Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal mein, Bay of Bengal is the smaller water body, but it is less saline. Why? Because it is getting water from रिवर्स. ठीक है, कौन सी रिवर्स? महानदी, गोदावरी, कृष्णा, कावेरी, पेन्नार, सुबर्णरेखा, वैगई. All these rivers are giving their fresh water to the Bay of Bengal, and that's why it's not saline as compared to, it is saline, but it's not as saline as Arabian Sea. So fourth one is incorrect, and here only 3 are correct. Last question for the day. Consider the following statements. The floating sargassum seaweed creates a unique ecosystem that supports a variety of marine organisms. And due to the region's proximity to coastal area, the harvesting of seaweed by local coastal community is possible. Which one of the given statements is or are correct? So Sargasso Sea, या Sargassum Sea जो है, it is a sea in the North Atlantic Ocean. And it is a sea within the sea. ठीक है, इसकी बहुत सारी स्पेशल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं. इट इज you might think कि within an ocean how can a sea operate, but this particular sea has this kind of a system around it because of the ocean currents that are flowing around it. So basically this is the North American coastline, this is the European coastline, this is North Atlantic Ocean. Now within this North Atlantic Ocean there are certain currents, ocean currents. So this is the Gulf Stream. Okay, then this is the Atlantic current. Here is the Canary current, and here is the North Atlantic equatorial current. Because this particular area is surrounded by 4 currents, this has formulated a sea within an ocean, which is the Sargasso Sea. And there are a lot of interesting seaweeds that grow inside it. However, this particular sea is very much away from the coasts, and this is not harvestable. In fact, because of the weeds that grow, the unnecessary grasses that grow here, the shipping became very difficult through the Atlantic Ocean, right? So it does not have a utility as when it comes to the coastal areas. Rather, it is an obstruction, but it is a beautiful, structure of nature, and that's why it must be protected. So here B is incorrect, A is correct, C is the answer for this one. So task for you after completing this entire class is that you need to memorize ocean currents now. ठीक है, ocean currents, and ocean currents को हमेशा ऐसे memorize करना है, warm currents, cold currents. ठीक है, हमेशा इसी तरीके से memorize करना है. Warm currents, please remember, will always flow from the equator towards the poles, and cold currents will always flow from poles to the equator side. Are you understanding this? This is a ground rule always, and this will make it easier for you to remember also. ठीक है, so yes, that is all for today's class. I hope you derived some value out of it, and in the next class we are going to talk about the movement of ocean water, wherein we'll talk in detail about the waves, about the tides, about the ocean currents. But today we have talked overall about how water operates in the atmosphere, in the oceans, etc. Next class will go more into detail. So please make sure that you remember the ocean currents properly before the next class. And if you're liking the class, please do drop it in the comments so that we know that we are doing something that is benefiting you. And yes, thank you so much for joining. All the very best. Bye-bye.